I'm Isishka. This is our seminar on the first 12 chapters of 1,000 Splendid Suns. So yeah, okay. How has your perspective on the situations in Afghanistan changed since we started reading this novel?
My perspective, personally, really hasn't changed that much because I knew that the situation was bad for women before I started reading it. Maybe once we get a little more into it, I'll realize how bad it is. But from this point, I kind of knew about arranged marriages and having to marry old guys when you're young. And
So do you think that our influence and how we're pushing democracy on them right now, do you think that's positive or negative?
well, I think that it's positive for women because I think that women obviously need more rights than they do, but at the same time, I think that they should be able to have their own values incorporated into the democracy, and it shouldn't be so such a westernized idea.
Yeah, they should be able to keep their culture, but
yeah,
maybe make it a little less risky for because a bunch of 15-year-old girls getting pregnant. It's not always safety for health reasons.
Well, yeah, it's not legal here for a 45-year-old and a 15-year-old, so that's a plus.
And even the idea that Miriam's mother was saying that women there just have to endure, they don't need any actual skills. Do you think that really speaks to the major themes of the novel? Yeah, I think that one of the major themes that's starting to come up and will definitely come up later is the feminist issue, and that the women whether or not they should be equal or not. Yeah, and just their real inner strength. Because the difference between our culture and theirs is pretty big in that way. Because women here, we can go to school and get the same jobs as men, but there it's crazy for that to happen.
Yeah, but you know what? In the book, it's when they talk about the part of town where the women are different, basically, and she was talking about how they showed their knees, they didn't wear their hijabs.
And they all have university degrees.
And they smoked cigarettes, which isn't okay at all. I think that you can see that they're starting to become more westernized.
Yeah. So in some ways it's negative though, because it's taking away what Rashid said, the culture of keeping the woman sacred for the husband. That's something that was important to them that we kind of just destroyed.
Yeah, completely.
But I think another theme that comes up from Miriam and her mother and the endurance thing is that you can kind of see that unlike her mother, even though she's been raised in the society, she still has hope to be able to break out of it, because when she talks to Mullah Fazullah, her teacher, when she talks to him, she asks if she can go to school, and he's pretty
he was supportive of it.
He's supportive of it, but it's her mother that's completely. Yeah, no, it definitely shows the generation gap in the culture, because she's got so much more desire for independence, and there's just sort of an acceptance with her mother, because she's we don't need any skills, we just need to endure our lives.
Yeah, and
Miriam just
give
doesn't
whatever
want
the husband.
That. She wants respect almost, and equality to a certain point. I think that's kind of what the author was trying to show. In this book, as well as in the Kite Runner. Yeah, there's a lot of connections to the Kite Runner, just with the idea that there's levels of respect that are given to certain groups, and there's definitely a lot of discrimination. In the Kite Runner, it showed general discrimination with just him between Amir and Hassan, but then with 1,000 Splendid Suns, it just shows general woman discrimination, I think.
What do you think it would be like to be Miriam and having to marry
I think that's just the whole idea is she really is forced to just endure her life, that the culture hasn't really given her any opportunity to fight against it. She's really just, she's stuck in a life that she never really wanted, and there's no level of her own desire anymore. She's just pushed into a different life.
Well, and it's so quick too. Like, she went from one minute like living in a little hut with her mom to the next minute like her mom is dead. Her dad, who like she worshipped, is not the person that she thought he was at all, and now she married some old dude.
You know, it definitely shows that you just are given the opportunity to endure, and that's about all the respect that a man will give you in that society. So, do you see common themes? Definitely then between the two novels?
I think one common theme would be kind of like trust and betrayal, because Miriam really looked up to her father, and she kind of worshipped him, and she'd wait around for him for days, and she saw him as this like caring and like
well, he was almost godlike, you know?
Figure.
Yeah, like he couldn't make any mistakes.
Yeah. And then I think she had like this image of him that maybe wasn't completely accurate.
Yeah.
And then she found out later and was really hurt by it. And I think that's kind of like Hassan, how he viewed Amir in The Kite Runner, because he pretty much like followed Amir and was loyal to him no matter what. And Amir was kind of like, he was unfaithful to him and he didn't stick up for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of just took advantage of him.
I think loyalty and devotion was a huge theme that connected the two books. But if you look at it from Jalil's perspective, and if you're in his shoes, like, how would you handle that situation in that kind of culture?
Yeah, like basically shame being one of the themes also, because Jalil was ashamed of Miriam, and Amir was ashamed of Hassan in some way, because when they were getting bullied by the other kids, he was like ashamed to be friends with the servant kid and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think Jalil probably felt ashamed of Miriam.
I almost think too, though, like even if that happened to like here in North America, like I think that there would be, you know, for some people, I think that they would feel ashamed of the kid and that sort of thing, and they might even try and hide it, or you know, they might deny it and that sort of thing.
They would, but they probably wouldn't go to the extent of like building a cabin in the woods and making them live there, and sending them off when they're 15 to some strange man. Like,
I think another theme that like connects the two is like sacrifice, you know, like Miriam has to sacrifice so much for, you know, her husband now, and she sacrificed for her mother when she was growing up, and you know, to keep her mom safe and happy. And I think in The Kite Runner, like Amir learned, he didn't sacrifice at all at the beginning, but I think that by the end he learned that he needed to sacrifice for Hassan's son. And
well, he learned from his son's sacrifices. Like he basically sacrificed his entire life just for one person.
Yeah, his childhood and everything.
I wonder why Miriam why the women sacrifice like that. Is it because they don't have an opportunity to change, or they don't want to? They
don't have democracy. They don't have really any way. Well, and they have, you know, if they had left their husband or something like that, like they really have nothing to support themselves. Like they would never survive.
Yeah.
Wilderness.
It's so hard to see, because some of the women are just so content in the book with living with the other wives and having so many children. It's hard to really judge whether or not that's right for their culture, because
when all the women are together, it's like you can see a lot of like an American society when they're walking together and just talking about their husbands and smiling.
But at the same time, I think that they just don't. It's almost like they're naive, you know, like they just don't know any better. They don't know that they could go out and get their own job and be so independent from their husbands.
But it's so hard for us to judge, because we've been raised in a society
where we are so
independent. Whatever we want.
Yeah.
I guess the major theme that comes from that is just accepting because of ignorance. We don't know anything different. And I think in any society that's kind of how it is.
Yeah. All right. Well. Good
talk.
Good discussion. Okay. Oh yeah.
Oh well. So, do you think Jalil actually cared about Miriam or even loved her?
I think he did. Because you know what? Like I think if he really didn't care about her, like he never would have visited once a week and stuff like that. Like I think that he played up the fact too much that he cared about her so much. Because if he, like, absolutely adored her and gave everything to her, he probably would have given her a nicer life. But I think at the same time, there was a part of him that wanted to give her that, but because of the societal standards, like, he couldn't, Like, he couldn't betray his 3 wives like that, Like, he had to choose who he was going to betray.
Well, and he would have been a complete outcast if he did anything with Miriam really in public.
And then that would have had a negative effect on the rest of his family.
And in that society, you can't do that. Like, just Nana getting pregnant, her father left her. Like, it's so hard to just accept those 2 lives and try and bring them together. So clearly he needed to make a decision, and he did.
And you can see, like, when she was leaving to go live with Rashid, when he was following the bus, you can see that when he was following the bus, you can see that he actually cared about her and actually, like,
Sorry, there's a spider. Okay, anyways. So, but I think that it's just, like, even when his wives were sitting down with him and Miriam and they're talking about the wedding, it was just, like, he was in such a tough position, and she was like, no, please don't make me do this, and he was like, don't put me in this situation. It's almost selfish of him to look at it like that, but it's clear his priorities were his reputation and his family over his illegitimate child. Which may not be correct, but that's
at the same time too, like, he totally, like, I think that to him, the best way to make everyone happy would be to marry her off to Rashid.
Even though she didn't understand at the time.
And especially, like, I think that he genuinely thought that he was giving her a better life. By marrying her to him, and then someone who could support her and stuff like that, because I think either way, even if she didn't get married off, I think that she wouldn't have been able to stay with him.
As awful as it sounds, I think he did give her a better life, because in that society, how much better off would she have been without that? Because, she would have, but it would have been a much
I don't think that she ever would have been I don't think he would have ever sent her to university and done all that, because, like, he just couldn't. It would have embarrassed his whole family by treating her as an equal to the other children, because technically in that society she wasn't equal at all.
And you can tell she was also, like, it would have embarrassed her too, and she would have felt ashamed, like, walking around, like, the first time she went to the town. She felt like everyone might have been, like, looking at her
knowing what her life story was.
Like, how she felt comforted when she was wearing a veil, so I think in some ways he was protecting her.
Well, no, and, like, in that society, even when she asked where her father lived, and he was just like, well, you're clearly new here, because everyone knows that guy. Like, it's hard to have a parent so involved in a society and so entrenched in their culture that to try and make him defy that, like, that's just, it was too much. Shut up.
Alright.
Okay, now we're done.
Yeah.
So thank you.